Welcome back, and thank you again for joining us on the slide. This podcast aims to normalize discussions that are required in our community, such as topics surrounding education, justice, economics, and politics. However, before we can attempt to cross controversial seas, we must create a vehicle that allows us to be successful. And I'm so grateful today to my guest. That I'll call you my guest, but really, this is my brother
Yeah,
from
man.
another mother. This is one of the coldest dudes that I have ever had an opportunity to witness in person.
Oh
My
man.
dog Polo,
Yes,
Mr. Sean
sir.
Fontaine.
Yes,
Welcome,
sir.
welcome,
It's a
welcome back to the
pleasure. It's a
slide.
pleasure.
I
Brother,
remember my
glad to be
first
back.
experience with you. As we worked together in one of our business settings. We were trying to inspire the individuals to kind of work a little bit harder. You know what I'm saying? And since we down here in the beautiful city of Jacksonville, Florida, we said, break it
Duval.
down. And that's just what my dog did. He said, ain't nothing
Duval.
else to say but
Yeah.
Duval. And that was probably one of the best performing days that we had in our business. So again, man, thank you for coming on here with us today. Introduce yourself and kind of normalize this interaction for
Yeah,
the people. Who
yeah.
is Polo?
Man, what camera am I in, man? Where I'm at?
All
Where
three
I'm
of
at?
them,
All
baby.
three.
All three of
Hey,
them.
well, good morning, beautiful kings and queens. Sean Fountain. For those of you in the football, Little League football world, youth sports world, they call me Mr. Polo, Coach Polo. Um, don't let the look fool you. Came out of high school, 16 years old, number 2 in my class, graduated FAMU, 21 years old, 2 degrees. Been in corporate America ever since I came out of college. Like I said, whenever they say don't judge a book by the cover, I'm a walking example of that. Because if you see me you see me on the right day, you'll think I'm a totally different person from what I really am. But in the right setting, right conversation, you'll be like this. And,
Yeah.
and, and that's what y'all finna get today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and thank you for that. Because like you say, in the right place, in the right time, in the right setting, coming out with the right set of information in order to allow individual to be successful, and that's what we want to talk about today. Really, we want to really normalize some concepts that allow individuals like us to be successful. Talking to individuals like us, right? Coming out of that high school period of time, it wasn't necessarily easy coming out during that 90 wave, right? The 90s was rough, right?
Right.
We're familiarized with the 90s now, according to words of individuals like Hillary Rodham Clinton, when she referred to individuals as super predators during that time. We was the super predators. We them individuals that they consider that. But you was able to make it. You had a set of guidance that let you make it through. And that's what I want the people to be able to hear about today. Kind of what are some of those triggers, what are some of those decision points that's going to allow them to be successful?
Man, first thing is I came up in a 2-parent household, right? And there was an age difference between my mom and my dad. So I think because there was an age difference, that's my dad being the older one, that gave me a solid foundation on what not to do. I wasn't one of the kids, but you had babies raising a baby. My dad was an older cat. So, my mom was younger, dad was older, but my dad, highly educated guy. My grandfather, highly educated, Kappa out of Bethune-Cookman, owned checker cab company back in the day. And my dad came up as an educator as well. Also helped run the family business up until my grandfather's passing. So, luckily for me, I was already equipped with the tools of education, entrepreneurship, things of that nature through my dad and my granddad. And my dad, he definitely made sure that I stayed on a certain path, But in doing that, he never allowed me to feel like I was better than those that wasn't on the path I was on. He never allowed me to feel like people who didn't have a mom and a dad in the same house, I couldn't be friends with them. I couldn't learn from them. So those are some of the things, like I said, kind of helped shape me, coming up. And then once I got to college, I don't know who it was, man, but the guy was like, listen, young buck, when you go to college, those 4 or 5 years will shape the rest of your life. So make sure you do right. You say, women gonna always be there. He said, I know you young, but say, listen, women gonna always be there. He was like, just focus on, your kids that you're gonna have, your grandkids that you're gonna have, the legacy that you're gonna leave. He said, those next 4 to 5 years helps shape that and build a foundation of that. And I really took that to heart my freshman year, 16 years old, where everybody else was a freshman, 18, 19. I'm 16 years old. I mean, you got people in high school who's older than me, and I was a freshman up in Tallahassee. So like I said, those are some of the things that kind of helped me to stay on the straight and narrow literally up until now still, you know.
You know, and that's beautiful. And we're gonna dive all the way into a couple of things that you just said. I really want to visit with the impact and the influence of your father, your grandfather, because you articulated that string. I really want to talk about what that experience was like being 16 and fam. Because because I've been through there a couple of times, Polo. I've been through there a couple of times up there. Hey, been up there to the moon a couple of times, to the moon and back, baby.
Oh man.
But right now, in this season of my life, you know, as a operations manager for Amazon, I'm moving around, right? I'm having the opportunity to work in the Atlanta demographic, and comparing young people in Atlanta to the young people that's here in Jacksonville, Florida, I see something different in that Atlanta demographic than what I see inside of this Jacksonville demographic. Although I'm having a real beautiful experience in both places because both groups of children are receptive, but they receptive for different reasons. The children I'm interacting with in Atlanta, they're receptive of my professional experience. The children I'm interacting with, and I'm calling them children, these jokers between 18 and 35 years old, right? But the people that I'm connecting with down here in Jacksonville, they have a real hard street, you know what I'm saying, experience. What's the difference between on those two minds? You know, that street Jacksonville mind and that corporate entrepreneur Atlanta mind. What's the difference in those things?
Man, I think honestly, look at the two cities you just named. You know, Atlanta is like well, at one point, the black mecca. You know, I think Charlotte probably on its tail now, but and at one point Atlanta was, you know, all the black people who were successful, most black people, successful black people, you know, they were in Atlanta, you know, or came from Atlanta, started in Atlanta and branched out. I think it was just overall Atlanta has a different mindset than that of Jacksonville, unfortunately, right? It's a different mindset, and so that mindset has trickles down to the same people that you're referring to, that 18 to 35-year-old demographic. You know, when you go to Atlanta, and you see a young female in her early 20s in a Mercedes or a Jag, that's hers. She went to school and she's working for in one of those high-rise buildings. You come to Jacksonville and you see that, more than likely her boyfriend doing something he got no business doing, and that's his. You know, this is a different mindset. I think the fact that Atlanta has some great HBCUs that's putting out some top tier talent every semester, that also attributes to that mindset. You know, you got Morris Brown, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark, Atlanta. You know, and all those schools are within a 1 or 2 mile radius of each other, right? So I think that's another reason why when you go to Atlanta, you see a different mindset than from that of Jacksonville. You know, they have more resources. They see more examples of success than what a lot of the younger generation sees here in Jacksonville. You know, success to us might be the Jaguar players. You know, success to us is a street dude that's real popular.
Right.
You know, which, you know, and I know that's not long lived. That's not sustainable, right? But, you know, when you go to other cities like Atlanta, you know, you see those black professionals, you know, and because I have family in Atlanta, I know that they don't tend to have that crab in a barrel mentality that kind of lingers over Jacksonville. You know, they share the wisdom, they share it because it's enough for everyone to eat. You know, so I think that's just some of the things why you notice the difference between people in Atlanta and people here in Jacksonville.
Hey, you mentioned that HBCU perspective, but here in Jacksonville, quiet as kept, we got Edward Waters University, right, which is a very, very prominent and important historically black college and university. What would help us to amplify the works of a Edward Waters, even if you would, in order to be able to kind of penetrate into our community, so we can start to have some of that success?
I think Edward Waters needs to, you know, make themselves more visible in the community, right, and not just that immediate area that they're in. You know, a lot of kids in Jacksonville, you don't see them come up saying, "I want to go to E-Dub." That's kind of like well, I couldn't go to FAM, I couldn't go here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go there. You know, you don't. It's like when I was in college, and we were talking about when I was in high school, and we was at that age talking about going to college. We knew from early on, I'm going to FAM, I'm going to FAM, I'm going to FAM. You know, like, or whatever school that we wanted to go to, it was an excitement around going to like a FAMU. You didn't see that with
Mhm.
EWC, right? So I just think that EWC needs to do more to put themselves out in the community. Pop they shit. We're actually a good school. Here's some of our accomplishments. This is why you want to come here to our school. I don't think they're as visible as they should be. They have a great product, but they have to me, they have to do more to put themselves out there, be more visible in the community and not just that area in which they're located in.
Shout out to that boy, Dr. Nashawn Nix, Edward Waters graduate, right? So he's right. It's some profound individuals that's coming out of there. And being up there in Atlanta, when I was notified by our regional director that they wanted me to go up there and kind of support one of those sites up there for a few months. Initially, I was real sour about the thought of going to Atlanta because I keep it a bean with y'all and y'all Atlanta folks. I don't fuck with y'all. You know what I'm saying? I don't like Atlanta, right? Even though it's the black mecca, in my mind, DC was Chocolate City, right?
Yeah.
Atlanta represented a place where people from the bottom used to go get on and hustle and get jammed up. And somebody that I respected greatly got jammed up in Atlanta. So after them Atlanta boys had snitched on them, it wasn't nothing in Atlanta that I was willing to respect, right? And so that skewed thinking kind of permeated my reality for years. Like for years, I was like, man, if I come through Atlanta 2:00 in the morning, so that way I don't have to run through traffic when I'm on 75, right? Atlanta ain't really had been much to me, but after having been up there, and even when I was challenged with the opportunity to go up there, I was saying to myself, why am I so bitter now as a grown man? I'll be 50 on Monday. I say, why I'm bitter now as a grown man about going to a place that gave birth to Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, John Lewis. I say, man, I'm tripping, man. I'm out my mind, right? I say, so I say, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna put myself at the foot of the elders and the people that's in that environment so I can learn from them because I want to be able to understand. And when I got up there, bro, I'm having one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. Over the coming months, I plan on calling all y'all names, all y'all young people up there in Atlanta, and particularly at the Amazon facility, MGE5. I intend on calling y'all names and highlighting some of the great things that y'all doing because it's just a crazy experience. You know what I'm saying? To be able to be up there around young people saying, I'm an inventor. I'm an entrepreneur. My goal is to go to school and get my doctorate degree. And that's what I'm hearing. But then what it does as well is it opens up my heart for people in Jacksonville because our kids in these streets, they need that same level of determination. How do we get it to them? And we ain't knocking nobody that got a grind or nobody that got a hustle, man. We all undid it. We all came through. You heard my dog just say it's just not sustainable, right? It's how do we now cross this bridge in order to be able to get to the other side? Because it don't make no sense to keep on doing things that don't give us the appropriate result.
That's the definition of insanity.
Come on.
Keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. No, you're right. You're right. But you have to take that back to yourself. You opened your heart and your mind going up there. And because you did that, look at the result, right? That's where it all started with you, though. It all started with you. And that's a message that has to be relayed. A lot of us are holding on to things right now that directly never really affected us. It did indirectly. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you have to open your heart and your mind to learn something. Like you said, you went to the elders, and they put you on game. Man, Atlanta is rich, and Atlanta has done more than what your experience is. There's more to Atlanta than that one experience.
That's right.
And for so many years, you were closed-minded to that.
That's right.
Now, you open your mind up, and you see what it is up there. Imagine had you not done that. Because through you, even if just one person get put on through you, imagine had you not opened your heart and your mind up, that person would never get put on.
Man, and that's real. And so what happens then when we start opening up our mind and our hearts to those individuals that surround us, that's impacted by our example? And I think that's the important message, even for, people that's in our age cohort or a little bit younger. All our brothers who locked in the struggle, our sisters who locked in their grind, because they got a grind similar to what the boys out there in the street on, right? It's when we open up our mind and our heart and we realize that we got people coming in back of us with the ability to do. And that's what the conversation I was having with this woman up there, and it kind of really, really honed it in for me because I was telling her, in my mind, when black people were brought into slavery, it put us in the same category of redemption as the children of Israel biblically, right? But as we in that period of time, we need Moses figures to now emerge in our community to help guide the example so they can set a way to be an example for these young Joshuas. So when we see these boys running through these streets with that warrior spirit, they not wild, right? They not wild, they Joshua, right? They want to go fight. They want to get to the promised land. They want better, but they ain't got an example of better. So how they going to do better when they ain't got an example to do better?
You know, every time, I say this. When we have these Moses figures, man, they end up being Judases, man.
Ooh! Speak on it, Polo. Speak on it.
I mean, you know, it's so many times, man, when, you know, we have these people that look like us, men, women. They've catapulted themselves to a level of visibility. They catapult themselves to be in rooms that most of us can't be in, right? And too many times, often, their intentions and their heart is pure in what they're doing. And so then when that becomes exposed, you know what we say? See, man, that's just why. You know, man, that's why I talk about church. That's why I don't go to church now. That right there. That right there. Him right here. Her right there. That's why I don't go to church now. So I think that it's really about getting the right people in the right place at the right time. You know, and for every 10 people that's been elevated, when that one mess up, we forget about the other 9 that did. You know, and that's unfortunate, but that's just that's how it is.
Yeah.
You know, but I also think what's important is, you know, for people, the younger generation, knowing how to be in any room that's there and knowing how to adapt to that room. Because sometimes you have to let that hood shit go. You have to let that pants sagging, smelling like weed everywhere you go, bloodshot out. You have to let that go sometimes. You have to know how to adapt to a room. You know, and those are the things that, you know, I think we have to instill, you know, in our youth. You know, man, like I remember when I was coaching, I would leave work, go straight to practice. So when I got to practice, I had my work clothes on, suited and booted. You know what they were saying to me? You a pastor? You go to church every day? Because in their mind, a black man couldn't go to work in a shirt and tie every day.
Right.
So they thought it was just black people only get just when they go to church. You know, so I had to teach them kids early on. No, Coach Polo worked for this big company. Coach Polo has people that he manages. Coach Polo, this is how I go to work every day. You know, and so at an early age, I was exposing them to more than just hard, like, you know, ooh, I can be like Coach Polo when I grow up. I ain't gotta, you know, have on this bright colored fluorescent vest with a hard hat on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
Shout out to my sister, Keita B, right? Miss Heaven on Earth, right? When I broke it down as an acronym, what I realized is that Heaven on Earth, HOE, means Miss. Nah, I'm just messing with you. That's my dog.
Right.
That's my dog. But really, man, we was working at a place called Progressive Leasing. This is when I realized what you're saying. I'm giving my testimony now to what you're saying. I was on hard time, man. This had to be probably about like 98, 99. I was really, really looking for a job. I was young. I had children. You know, I was married at that time of my life, and I was really trying to find my way. And I just wanted to get a job working in the mailroom. You know what I'm saying? So my sister told me, hey, you can get a job out here, but you got to put together a resume, right? And so when I went and studied and researched what a resume was and how to put it together, when it talked about my qualifications, you know, I realized I ain't really had no qualifications. But following in my cousin Ozell footsteps, I took accounting in the 10th grade. So on the qualifications, I put general ledger, you know, accounts receivable, accounts payable, because that's what they taught in the class.
Right.
So when I took my resume up there and I gave it to the people, they shot it upstairs. The man came downstairs and he was coming out the door. He said, hey, hold on. Why are you applying for this job in the mailroom when we got a job upstairs in accounts receivable?
Based on your resume.
Based on my resume. I'm like, bet. Hey, let me do that. I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? I done jumped in the suit and I'm at work. These people ain't realized that I ain't really know accounts receivable though. Man, I had that job for probably about like 3 months before they realized, hey man, we got to get this boy out the building.
Hey, fake it till you make it, huh?
Hey, boy, I'm gonna fake it till I make it. But what I realized as I was faking it, I just stop faking, right? And really make it. Lock back in my education so that way I'd be able to equip myself with the opportunities to be able to be more successful, because I wasn't tearing my back up. And I'm finna say, I'm making $10 an hour. Now people say $10 an hour, they might fall out. Boy, this was in 1998, boy, Joker minimum wage was 6 and a quarter. You see what I'm saying? So I was 5.75. I was doing a little bit better than most, but it wasn't sustainable because I ain't had equipped myself with the skills in order to be able to sustain my new level, right? So I had to get back in. I had to lock back in. And crazy is that it would take another 20 years for me to be able to revisit that level, because I wasn't prepared, because I was playing, because I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be somebody that was hood. I wanted to be in the streets. I was outside of my make anyway. Ain't none of y'all who run around acting like that really like that. You know what I'm saying? You're really not built for prison, right?
I can't tell you. I don't even like driving by a prison. I don't like the spirit of it.
Yeah. Because as a concept, man, it's a terrible concept. All our brothers locked down, locked inside, grouped together, and struggling for resources, fighting and hollering and screaming and going through all that madness. Because we haven't taken a real serious approach towards rehabilitation. Yeah. We march and we protest and we beg for opportunities, but we could upend the whole entire society by just preventing crime, right, and stopping going to prison. If we stop going to prison, we'll flip the whole society.
That's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen, man. Not gonna happen, man.
What could we do?
I'm gonna tell you why it's not gonna happen. They won't let that happen. They'll start cutting back resources much as they can. You know, prison is big money.
That's right.
Big money. And look at the black percentage population-wise in prison versus the actual economy. It's a lopsided number. You know, you take blacks out of prison, shit, they probably can shut down 80% of them.
Yeah, because 80% of them is filled with us.
With us.
That's real.
You know, it filled with us, but we 10% of the population. You know?
Yeah.
So that's big. That's money, man.
Yeah.
You know, remember that one point in time they tried to put the narrative out there that Michael Jordan was investing in prisons, but it's actually a white man named Michael Jordan. You know, man, prison is big money, which is how you have you have these cricket judges, you know, that's purposely putting us in jail for longer sentences than what we should, because you got your feet in the economy, you're feeding that prison water. You know, I mean, that's some of the stuff that we see on TV. That's real life, man.
Yeah.
Like it's real life.
Yeah.
You know, it's real life.
And see, I'm of the mentality like this. I had an opportunity. We had a young lady who I worked for in the military. Her name was Lakeithia Williams, Captain Lakeithia Williams, and she was running for state representative, Texas State House District 54, against a man who I'm also very, very friendly with, a good guy, Dr. What Brad last name is. I can't call Brad last name. I apologize. I don't think he's going to ever watch the podcast, so I ain't even sweating it. But anyway, so when we were going through her process and she was talking to lobbyists and individuals like that, one of the lobbyists that she talked to was the Texas Department of Corrections. And when she was talking to those individuals from the Texas Department of Corrections, they were talking about all of these correction officer vacancies and what she would do in order to be able to support the Department of Corrections in order to be able to make conditions better for the correction officers. At some point, she had to excuse herself to use the bathroom, so it's just me and this man sitting inside of the room. And I say, man, look here, man, I get it. I get it. Y'all got, 800 correction officer vacancies statewide and all that. But what I also understand is it's going to require another 2,000 or 3,000 black people in order to be able to keep them positions adequately staffed. And I ain't saying that we shouldn't have penal institutions for rehabilitation. I'm saying how we get access where we can control one of them prisons.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? See, because the process of rehabilitation is a thing that's real too. You know what I'm saying? We can't omit the fact that in our environment is some behaviors that we got to be able to root out. But the problem is that we also ain't in control of our rehabilitation, so it increases the opportunity for recidivism. Recidivism for y'all young people, because Polo already done told me, nigga, don't be in here using the word we don't understand. Recidivism for all those who don't know, and thank you, Mr. Rodney Duckett out of the city of Killeen, Texas, for teaching me what recidivism was, is the process of returning back to a penal institution after you have been released because you ain't learned your damn lesson the first time. Recidivism. You keep repeating the same process over and over again. But when you got a rehabilitation system that's designed to teach you how to do the same thing over and over again so you can continue to feed into that process, that's the problem that we have. And so, Polo, I agree with your statement, because when you limit resources and you increase competition, according to the Roberts Cave experiment conducted by Muzaffar Sharif and Carolyn Sharif in 1950 in Oklahoma, they determined that if they would take those resources away from communities or from kids and then increase the competition, that those conflicts can become violent. And this was against middle class white kids. So what happened in the hood when a joker ain't got the ability to get access to a resource? What happened in the hood where education is terrible and poor and people seeing their mama struggle? They gonna hustle. You know what I'm saying? They gonna do whatever it takes in order to be able to try to get on, man. And that's why, even while we doing this particular recording today, is because our heart is in a place where, man, we tired of seeing our youth jammed up. You know what I'm saying? I want to see the best for these boys. And so with that, I want to pivot just slightly, because I think one of those key elements is something that you shared. You say your father was a little older than your mother, but you had a structured father in the home. Tell us about him, man. What was that? What was that like? What was it like being young Polo?
Listen, man, shout out to my pops, Bill Langley, the GOAT. Everybody, a lot of people know my dad because he's been refereeing for 57 years now. So a lot of people know him through that. But listen, he was college educated, came up in a college educated background. So he made sure that education with me was a priority over sports, right? Sports was there, but he let it be known that could be an avenue, but I'm not gonna let you put all your eggs in that one basket, right? So he made sure that education was the forefront of everything, because that's one thing an injury can take away from you, unless it's a TBI, traumatic brain, but you know what I'm saying? It can't take away from you, So having him in the home, it definitely provided structure, kept me out of a lot of trouble. Not because I was afraid of my dad. I just wanted to make my dad proud. So I never really got into a lot of trouble, coming up, because he was in the household, and not he was present and visible, Granted, he was working, taking care of the house. He still made himself vulnerable for me. He wasn't that super hard dad that I was scared to go to. That only spoke up when my mama got so fed up. Now your daddy get involved. It wasn't that type of household. I know people come in that kind of household. Wait till when your daddy get home and tell him, no, please don't tell that. I didn't come up like that. I could always go to him, talk to him, tell him how I felt, and it was understanding. Like I think, man, my dad probably whooped me maybe once my whole life. Maybe once.
Yeah.
My whole life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe once.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But he was in the house, But I do think that is what's key, is bringing kids up with their father, assuming he's a good role model, because all fathers ain't good role models. But the ones that's not, why not? That's a whole other issue to jump onto.
And we're going to have a show about it too.
Yeah, but I think just having him there overall, it definitely did help shape me. And believe it or not, I'm giving him his props, but I also told him there were certain things that he did that I made sure I didn't do, coming up. So I said, Dad, in a lot of ways, you also showed me what not to do. So in the areas that I felt like I'm not going to say failed as a father. The areas I felt like there could have been room for improvement and growth, those were some of the areas I made sure my own kids, I wasn't lacking in. So that was definitely one of the benefits of having him there. And I look at all of my friends, cousins who didn't come up without a dad. Some of them are still successful, and then some of them are not. And they'll tell you, man, I wish my daddy was in the house, because I wouldn't have did A, B, C, D, and E. I wouldn't have hung with A, B, C, D, and E. But my mama just couldn't do it all by herself. She had to work because, so it's very, to me, that was very a very integral part of me growing up, having him there. And motherfucker was mean too. Shit, I mean, he was mean as hell. So I mean, that ain't make it no better. But I got used to it. I knew how to not push his button to get him to that place. You know, so.
But even with that, then let's talk about that educational journey, because coming through completing high school at 16 and then being able to register and attend Florida A&M University at that young age. What was that like? Because I'm thinking about the fam I know, and then the fam you experienced had to be a different fam. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it ain't that fam that I know wasn't there. Is that you understood how at 16 how to navigate the fam that I was aware of in order to be able to allow you to acquire 2 degrees, right? What was that like for you?
So my dad, FAMU alumni. My older brother, FAMU alumni. So I already had came up on the campus, going to homecoming every year, stuff like that, right? But believe it or not, even me going to FAM, man, that was like really all on me. You know, like, that was all on me. You know, I did my own application. I did my own research. Well, and my guidance counselor, Mr. Samuel Eves, shout out Mr. Eves. I got there at 16. Like I said, man, this kid still in high school, 16, 10th, 11th grade. Back then, though, in Tallahassee, that student ID, you might as well have been 21. Anywhere I went, I showed a student ID, alcohol, tattoos, get in the club, just had to show the student ID. But I was fortunate because when I got there at 16, some older cats from Jacksonville took me under their wing. They had been there for 2-3 years already, right? They took me under their wing, showed me the ropes of Tallahassee, showed me the ropes of college life. You know, it was almost like they refused to let me fail, you know, because one thing about Tallahassee, a lot of people say, I went to FAM, but they don't say I graduated.
That's right.
I went to FAM and graduate. A lot of motherfuckers come up to FAM and live in Tallahassee and don't even be going to school, just be on the campus. Like,
go to TCC.
Well, that too. It happened to do that. You know, when the money ran out, they came back to Jacksonville, worked a little bit, got some money, came back to Tallahassee. But I came across a bunch of older dudes, man, that really just refused to let me fail. You know, and I to this day, man, Maurice Neesmith, Kenny Martin, Mike Crosby, my boy DT. Those I ain't mentioning, hey, charge it to my head, not to my heart, man. It's a whole bunch of y'all. But like some of those dudes, we still keep in contact. Very successful businessmen here in the city of Jacksonville. Like I said, they just took me under their wing, you know, and because they had already been there 2-3 years, right? And I think that was really what really helped me through FAM. And then one of my homeboys that was there before me, Mike Hutt, he was 1 year older than me. He was already up there. So he really was the one that grabbed me and said, hey, boy, this shit wild up here. And if you don't do it the right way, boy, you're gonna get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So things like that, man, is what helped me. So like I said, I'm forever, you know, indebted to those guys, man. But it definitely was different because I was so damn young. You know, like so damn young. Like I'm a 16, 17-year-old freshman, people at 19 and 20. You know, but like I said, I was able to fit in because I was around the older crowd. So they wouldn't let me do young dumb shit. You know, because then I was a reflection on them as well. You know, so they had kind of built their reputation up. So anybody who they allowed to be in their circle, you know, you're gonna carry yourself a certain way. You know,
So as we get ready to bring this particular episode to a close, you know, we reminded, and I'm not a pastor, I'm not a minister, I don't profess to do those type of things, but I want to highlight something from Scripture that I think that will help to give context to these particular conversations as we move forward. Because when the children of Israel came out of Egypt, they found themselves in the wilderness. And when it was time for them to go into the promised land, they lacked the courage in order to be able to fight against certain entities and systems that would have given them success and entrance into the promised land. And the commandment was allow them to wander in the wilderness until they die. right? And their children will go into the promised land. I had an opportunity to hear a recording of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at the when he was giving eulogy to Marion Barry, former DC of mayor of Washington D.C., and he referred to our generation as the Joshua generation. So what we want to do is we just want to put out some words of encouragement as we complete our wander in the wilderness, as we get ready to enter into the promised land and do those things that ain't been done by people before us. But in order to do that, what it's going to require openness. It's going to require a change of our heart. It's going to require a degree of networking and tenacity that's going to allow us to be successful in those things that's coming next. And you can't be afraid today of your past. You can't be afraid of what the future holds for you. But what you got to do is you got to be present right now in this moment in these type of conversations, preparing yourself and equipping yourself with the wisdom and the data that's going to allow you to do those things successfully. And then what I'm going to encourage you or I'm going to implore you to do is identify young Polo. You see what I'm saying? Wrap your arms around him. You know what I'm saying? Hey, don't wrap y'all arms around grown Polo. I know y'all done seen my dog up here shining, man. Keep your hands off the dog. You know what I'm saying? Hey, wrap your arms around him. You know what I'm saying? And then let's do those things that's necessary to equip him with the resources and keep him from doing young, dumb shit. So that way, we don't got to worry about putting money on his books. We can put money into his vision. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, share a word on the way out for our people, man.
Hey, man, all I can say is this. I'm going to keep it real short and sweet. I'm not going to be as elegant as his brother here. It's never too late to become what you could have been.
Church.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Church. Hey, so again, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for riding with us. And again, as we always say, you can run and you can glide, but you cannot hide from the slide. Peace. We'll holler at you later.